Now, why do you need a market dominating position and how do you actually develop one? Well, I'll try and explain. What I'm showing here is this is pounds, dollars, euros going on this axis, and this is volume of sales here. Basically, the blue line represents your average cost. So what happens is your unit average cost is very high if you're not selling very much, and that's because you've got all your overheads and they're all just divided into one piece of product. But the more you sell, this blue line, your average costs fall until you get to a stage where you can't cope anymore, you run out of capacity, you start to get overcrowding, shortages, etc. And then your costs rise again, and then you get to this stage here where basically you hit a brick wall, and unless you upscale, you can't really go any further. But effectively what's happening is, up to here, you're better off if you can produce and sell more because you can do so at a lower unit cost. The trouble is you can only sell more generally with this black line here, which is called a demand curve, which basically says that the higher your price, the less you'll be able to sell as volume, and as you lower your price, you'll be able to sell more. Now, if you haven't got a market dominating position, you're what's called a commodity, and if you're a commodity, you're competing with all the others on price. And what that means is that you can't really raise your prices without losing significant amounts of volume. It's called elastic demand. And you'll typically be somewhere round about here where you're making as much profit as you can. And what you'd like to do is you'd like to sell more because you can produce more at a lower unit cost here, but you can't sell more because you'd have to lower your price. And if you lower your price, you lower your margins, and you're probably at a stage round about here where actually the lower margins more than compensate for the fact that you're selling higher volumes. So you're more or less sort of stuck really. Now, there's only two things really that you can do to make more profit from that position. One is to look at reducing your costs, and we always do that. We'll look at reducing both your direct costs and your fixed costs, overheads. And if you can make any sort of savings there, then you lower this blue line a bit, and that makes more profit. But the only other way, certainly beyond the sort of short term, to make more profit is to make your demand line, instead of looking like that, make it look something like this. In other words, make it move out and be steeper. And if you do that, then instead of selling this much at this price, you can actually charge a higher price and sell more volume. And that means you make more profit, obviously, significantly more profit. But the only way you can get your demand line to go higher and steeper so that people will pay you higher prices for any particular quantity is to stand out from the crowd. And the only way you can do that is through a market dominating position. And the way you do it is there's two elements to it. You identify your ideal target customer or client here, and then you position yourself as an expert or a specialist to appeal to what's called their hot button. And their hot button, 7 times out of 10, their hot button will be a problem, an issue, a concern that they've got that they haven't got a solution to. So it tends to be twice as often a negative as the 30% of the time when it might be a positive, positive benefit. But again, it depends on your customers, your market. So you need to identify what it is that your ideal customer really wants, and then you need to give it to them better than the others. So you need to what's called innovate your business to cater for your ideal customer's hot button better than the others do, or to explain that you do that better, because just explaining it makes people think you must be better. By doing this, you're creating a difference, creating your market dominating position rather than competing here on price. Now, the best way to do this is probably through a workshop where you get all the people in the business together, even if there's only 2 or 3 of you. And we run through a structured workshop, and we basically come up with what your market dominating position is. And then that underpins all of your marketing efforts and your business growth efforts. Now, if you think that's interesting, have a look at a short video on www.coachforprofit.com/Bernard. And if you think there's anything of interest in there, book a time and maybe we could have a short conversation. So just to recap, the way to make more profit beyond the short term, you can do something with your costs, and we'd always look at that. But beyond the short term, you need to have what's called a market dominating position, which is where you'll get people to buy more off you at a higher price because you're being seen as a specialist or an expert in your defined target ideal customer or client, and you've stood out from the crowd by innovating your business to satisfy the want of their hot button better than anyone else does. So Bernard Keeby, that's why you need a market dominating position, and that's how you go about getting one. Thanks very much for watching today. I'm looking to recruit a business coach in order to help me handle existing global demand for business coaching services. And in particular, I'm looking for someone to run our Northeast US division. If you're interested in finding out more about this opportunity, which involves absolutely no financial risk or upfront investment, then go to coachforprofit.com/Bernard, watch a short 8-minute video, and if you think there's anything of interest there, then book a time and let's talk. And thank you very much for showing interest in this opportunity.